once we begin to understand that every action that we do, that others do, every sentence that we use is just an attempt to meet a need or a value. And sometimes the strategy is tragic, but underneath is that need, that longing. And once we begin to understand that more, what did you call it? The cleanup, the repair.
Repair, yeah.
Yeah, the repair doesn't take as long. I met an NVC trainer in Santa Barbara in about 2007. I was at an IIT training. Liv Monroe was her name, and I was just brand new. I was only 2 months into NVC, and she shared, it's not with NVC that you won't upset people. The upset happens, but she said it's a wonderful way to clean up, or as you would say, repair. And I've certainly found that. So what used to take us days, weeks to work out sometimes with sulking, and in the early days now it can be just a few hours, to 24 hours at tops, as we just sit with it and work it out. So Jackal and Giraffe. That's the giraffe. If you look at any clips of Marshall Rosenberg, he used them all the time. Why the giraffe? So the giraffe is it's a tall animal, so it can overview things. It doesn't get lost in the woods. It has an overview of everything. The other thing with the giraffe, it's got a really big heart. Needs it to pump blood up that long neck. So we come from the heart. Giraffe also, it secretes a certain enzyme in its saliva that allows it to eat from this tree that's full of thorns. And so it can take on the thorny things in life and dissolve them and integrate them and become a better, stronger, transform them into a better, stronger, bigger giraffe. The other thing with the giraffe too, it's not a wimp of an animal, it's a very strong animal. And so it's about really being strong in our compassion, or even strong in our vulnerability sometimes, which is quite a lovely space to come from. The other thing with the giraffe, it's got a really long neck, so it's got no voice box. So it's a really good listener. And a lot of it is more about listening and connecting rather than advice giving. And so that's the giraffe. On the other hand here, we have our friend, the jackal. It looks a bit like that. Jackal's an interesting animal, very cunning. It'll never take your head on. What a jackal does, it comes around behind you and it nips away at your heels until you fall over, and then all the jackals are in. And so the jackal's like that niggly-naggy voice that is telling us we're not good enough. I should be this. I should be a better parent, or I should be a better whatever. And so that's actually a tragic attempt to try and educate ourselves. And we have jackals out in the world. There are people that you might look at and you're like, straight away, or there's actions that our closest family can do that send us straight to jackal at times. And the thing to understand with the jackal, which is what I was just explaining before, is the key is not to kill the jackal or to dump a whole lot of positive affirmations on the jackal and try and get rid of it. The aim is to understand that underneath every kind of jackal statement, or every person out there that comes into our life that kind of like challenges us, triggers us, there's a need, a value that's longing to be met. And if we can connect to that need or that value, really connect to it through the feelings to the needs, then we can totally transform how that jackal is in our lives, within our own selves and with those around us. So the key thing to understand is that the jackal, judgment, blame, any kind of thing like that, it's just a longing. There's a longing there to be met, and if we can connect with that, we can just totally transform it. So that's the jackal. So that's when we talk about giraffe and jackal. You see loads of that if you look up any NVC online.
It's always cool to have a reminder, especially at this time. It feels like it's a symbol, right? And having that, I don't know, it feels important right now. I had a question, and it's just flipped out of my head. What is it? It was kind of about like, when did you have the aha moment with NVC? But how do you, okay, I'm going to go with, how do you feel like NVC is serving you now?
Many different responses to that question. So let's pick a thread. Curious, because I guess what comes up for me when I consider that, it's the language of NVC and also the breathing practices that are really supporting. It is really, it's really important for me to remain calm, right? And not only in the tumultuous time that we're experiencing, but also when there's tension or tumultuous, is that even a word? Within our family unit, right? And like I had an experience probably an hour ago where I noticed that I was getting swept up in what I would call quite a intense moment. And I noticed myself losing myself and starting to get on that reactive way of interacting, getting caught up in the energy of what was going on. And then what I did, I mean, this is a practical way that's serving me in this moment, right? And so what I did was that I went and sat on the couch and I closed my eyes and I just breathed. So I just took like slow breaths, closed my eyes, just sat there and found my place of balance. So then when I went and interacted with the thing that was going on, I was in a whole different place. So I suppose that the key part of how, if I take like the NVC part of that, is just taking a moment to connect to what's alive in me. Yeah, to be able to connect to what I value, and that's being calm. Like I really value harmony and calm and connection. And so it was like reminding myself that that's what I most want in this interaction, and I want to contribute. So in order for me to do those things, it's important for me to be calm when others around me so that's been super, super important. Yeah. It's probably a bunch of other responses, but that's the one that most comes up, that I'm most connected to in this moment. Yeah, what about for you? What's your...
I think the constant reminder that it's more about connection than working things out. Like before going into anything or working anything out, it's about connection first. And I think of all the places that has really helped me the most, it's been in my relationship with Deb and with the children, like the kids. Just really taking a bit of distance sometimes to connect with what I really value in this moment, and then when I approach them, is not to come with my idea of how it could be or should be or would be, but it's more around about how do I connect with them first and then kind of work this out. And I think that really supports. I find that really kind of supportive and serves me really well. Is that. Yeah, that's really important. And then having a few really close friends around me that we call each other once, or about once a fortnight or once a week. Sometimes it's just a bit of a catch up. We can kind of have a good old kind of bit of a jackal party and hear each other. And sometimes they'll be like what we call empathy buddies, and they'll hear me and I'll hear them. And that serves me incredibly well. Just having that someone in front of you that's present and able to offer empathy in a way that connects and doesn't try and work me out or fix my problems. That really serves me well, having set up, that support, those supportive kind of connections and friendships.
Can you talk a little bit? You've talked about that kind of offering compassion, but often we turn to wanting to fix it, wanting to offer advice. Can you talk about those other ways that generally we do turn to?
You mean when we
What's the empathy?
When
what are the blocks to empathic connection?
Yeah.
Okay. So here's a few ways that we can mess up communication. So I'll demonstrate those, and then after that I'll do a demonstration of empathy, what empathy could look like. And and what's important here is just kind of consider which ones you might kind of do better than the others. But so you've got to imagine that Deb's come to me for some support and some care, and I'm just going to mess it up in a few ways. Okay, so yep.
Okay, so as you probably remember, 2 nights ago we had this. Oh my goodness, we had these people that have moved into this apartment across the road, and it's like all I can hear is doof 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 doof. Yeah, and then the other night they were like partying from 9 p.m. to 6 a.m. and I got virtually very little sleep, and I just want them to leave the neighborhood.
I was here as well. That was really bad, eh?
Yeah.
I think what we should do is we should round up all the neighbours, and we should like get a bit of a gang together, and we should go around their house, park all their cars around their house like early in the morning, and just play the music really loud. People so bad.
Yeah.
And then maybe we could do some kind of petition, and even what would be quite good is, I know a couple of the neighbours are really upset. Maybe we could egg their windows or something. So pause there. So in a way,
windows are quite high though.
Yeah. True. So in a way, I'm talking about collusion. That we collude. So I agree with Deb, and I agree how bad they are, and then we come up with these solutions to deal with them. So collusion's a very common one throughout business and extended families, where people meet around water coolers in business and coffee machines, and they talk about someone else like behind their back. And this is not so much the neighbours, it's still quite distant to us. We don't know them, but what it is we begin to build forces around them that don't include them, and we create like a common enemy, and then we all feel good, but we're doing nothing to support these people and possibly just other family members that are there. That makes sense?
Yeah, and it feels really like, cool, that could be happening quite a bit right now.
Yeah, it does. Yeah. Okay, so that's collusion, and the others, So that's quite a common one. Okay, so let's go with another one.
Yeah,
so Deb carries on.
Like it's so I was kept awake. Like I don't even think I slept that night, right? And so I wake up in the morning and I'm super grumpy, and I'm just exhausted. And then I'm like, I've got to do all these things this day, and I don't want to do any of them because I've had no sleep. And then, like, how can people even move into a neighborhood and be incredibly inconsiderate, especially in times like this?
Yeah. It just reminds me of years ago when I was living in Gisborne, and I was in this flat, and we had some noisy neighbours, and we were just lost with what to do. I went and saw my grandfather for some advice, and he told me the story from when he was a kid, and I found it really useful. And so back when he was a kid.
Okay, now you can stop talking.
So that one is, we begin to launch into old stories from our past, or old stories about us. And then what it does, it just makes it about us and not about the person in front of us. So we go into, like, sometimes we go into storytelling. Now, that's quite fun when you're hanging out with your friends sometimes, or you're kind of in a bit of banter. But if someone wants support, they want some attention on them. They don't want us kind of going into a story from our past. So that's storytelling. Okay, that's 2. Number 3.
One thing, Deb, you could see it in your body language. How she just went, oh, here he goes again. It was so obvious in the body language of the response, the physical response. All right, number 3.
Okay. Yeah, and I guess what comes up for me too is that, so we had that going on, right? and we've had, like even before we went into lockdown, we had people driving up and down the street playing, like, putting those wiring their car stereos to their batteries or whatever they do, that thing.
Yeah.
And then it's like, and then just driving around the streets, and I was like, doof, 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 all night, and I'm like, how?
That must be. That must be so frustrating.
Yeah,
and I see you get so wound up about that.
Yeah, I get wound up.
But look, I've got this great book that I'll give you, and it's How to Relax Under Stressful Situations. So I'll give you that. Also, I'll get you to give Mike a call and have a chat to him, because he's got some really good kind of strategies on how to kind of go out and converse with people like that.
Right.
How to influence friends with integrity, I think it's called. People.
Sure. Yeah.
And the last thing too is, I know you've been really stressed, and maybe try jogging or something.
Righto.
So that's called we call that the fix it Jackal, or advice giving. It's when we give advice. So the person's in some pain, and we just give them our knowledge, our advice. And so that advice giving is quite it can be difficult for some people, because here's someone in front of us are in some pain and we just want to fix it. But in those attempts, sometimes people just want to be heard. They want to be connected with before fixing. Now, if it's two friends kind of having a conversation and you're both kind of, away, just kind of talking with each other on ideas, that can be fine. But it's when someone's in some pain in front of us and they're there, just to avoid that. Yeah. So Marshall Rosenberg would always say, if someone really opens up their heart to you, and for years I've been longing for you to really hear them, and you do, he reckons it's a 7-hour stand down before any advice is offered. The best next words to come out of your mouth are, is there more you'd like to say? And so anyway, this is something new from Marshall. So that's a fix it, Jackal. Advice can be useful. What we say is, we got this from John Cunningham years ago, a trainer that we really valued as a really good friend, is knock first, is ask. I've got some advice here, would you be willing to receive it? And even then, if they're quite vulnerable, wait for a while. Let the connection hit. Okay, so we've got one more trap to go, and then we'll do some empathy. Okay.
So in this moment I feel quite tired. I notice I'm really exhausted, and I'm really nervous at tonight. Like, it's been quiet today, and I'm like, I don't know how many more nights I can take of people being loud at night. Yeah.
So you're getting really kind of frustrated, upset, sad about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm guessing that there's a real nervousness there. And like even just a deep sense of kind of mourning, I can just kind of quite worked up around
frustration, tiredness, just deeply tired.
Yeah, wait there for a minute. Here's some tissues.
Okay.
And look, you have a good cry and give me a hug. It's going to be all right, okay? You'll be fine. I'll make you a cup of tea, and maybe when all this is over, in a few months from now, we'll go to the movies, and you're going to be okay.
Oh, I like the movies. I know. Don't touch me.
So that's called sympathy. It's kind of like over-exaggerated sometimes, people, but that's sympathy, where I want to take Deb's pain away. I don't want to support her to fully connect with it and really connect with those needs or values that are longing to be met, but I just want to take the pain away. The trap with sympathy is then she might become reliant on me to make her feel better, you see. And, you probably realize in relationship, it's not a great, it can be a bit of a trap of a habit to get into. So that's sympathy. Where empathy is, I want to support the person to fully connect with their pain or their discomfort, and then allow them to connect to the beautiful need or longing that's there underneath. So now I'll give an example of empathy.
Okay, yeah. So what I connected to before was that, like in this moment, like I feel quite deeply tired. Yeah. Like there's this like a sense of being on edge even, because it's like I mentioned before, it's like my body wants to fully relax, and then there's like a alertness or awareness that is almost getting in the way of me being able to fully relax, just creating some like frustration or some tension in me. And yeah, no, it's so curious because I'm really struggling to switch off. I'm struggling to switch off my hypervigilance.
Yeah, so when you say that, I'm wondering, are you feeling like you mentioned, are you feeling tense? There's a tension there, and an edginess, I'm guessing, and anxiety.
Like yeah, it's kind of like it feels like an it's not irritability, but there's like a yeah, probably like a tension. So there's like a tension. Yeah.
I'm wondering if that's like that you'd really value some rest or some ease.
Like it's like deep rest. Like what I would love actually is to crawl under my covers and pull the covers over my head, and then maybe put some. It's interesting because my thought comes in that I want to put earplugs in, and then oh no, if I put earplugs in, what happens if something happens? So I've got this thing. There's a part of me that just wants to completely switch off, and then there's a part of me that is just doesn't want to.
And I wonder if in doing that would, so is it that you really want to meet your need for self-care and self-nurture?
That's going on, yeah, and also something around being available to support at the same time.
So is that you're saying that support, and I'm guessing contribution to life is important to you.
Yeah.
And even your own life, like, and that self-care.
Yeah, I want to find that balance, actually. I want to find that balance of caring for me and caring for others. I want to be able to hold them both with equal time, almost. And that's tricky.
Yeah.
That's tricky.
So is it about balance?
Yeah. How do I bring those two together? That they are in harmony. Yeah.
So that's empathy. That's I'm not using too many words. I'm attempting to stick to needs or values-based words and really just drop into where Deb's coming from and support her to fully connect with it. And generally through some effective empathy, it's quite self-empowering when Deb begins to become more empowered and connected to make decisions to help kind of work through her own situation, or where to go for some good support if she needs it, useful support.